Training camp is not here yet, but the Miami Dolphins are already dealing with significant injuries. I'm Jim Basquel with the latest ESPN headlines. How about center Mike Pouncey undergoes hip surgery? He'll be sidelined up to 3 months, while running back Knowshon Moreno, who they signed in the offseason, will undergo arthroscopic knee surgery, will miss up to 5 weeks. We are joined on the phone by James Walker, who covers the Dolphins for ESPN.com. And James, let's start on that offensive line. What is the impact of this Pouncey injury?
Yeah, Jim, this is a huge impact, and if I was to choose one player on the Dolphins that they could least afford to lose, even over the quarterback position, I would have chosen Mike Pouncey. And Pouncey, not only is he the quarterback of the offensive line, he's probably their second or third best player on the team. He's a guy that's just reaching the prime of his career, and if you look at their early season schedule, they have 2 AFC East games against the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills, 2 games they cannot afford to lose, struggling within the division. So this is a debilitating blow for them, and it'll be interesting to see where they go because they have a few options in-house, but there really isn't any guys off the top of my head that I could think of outside that they can sign that can at least be near the level of Mike Pouncey. So whoever they have in there at center is going to be a pretty significant drop-off.
James, you know, Bullygate was well documented last year for the Miami Dolphins. So their offensive line kind of went through it was a target of emphasis with them to try to kind of improve that offensive line. As we move towards the start of training camp, how does that offensive line as a whole shape up?
Well, without Pouncey, it looks a lot worse. It should be improved. I think that's what, Dolphins general manager Dennis Hickey spent a lot of resources on. They spent a first-round pick on a starting right tackle in Juwan James. They spent $47 million on a Pro Bowler in Brandon Albert, who came over from the Kansas City Chiefs. So all of that was in mind to sort of build around Pouncey at center. But now, if you take that centerpiece out of the middle of the offensive line, now it doesn't look as good. Obviously Brandon Albert is the best player left on that offensive line in week 1. You do have a rookie there, and really you could have rookie at right tackle, and now potentially you could have 5 new starters based on, the starters that were there last year, and with Pouncey probably not going to be there for week 1 or week 2. So it's going to be a lot of change, and coming with a new offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor, his offense is very demanding for the offensive line. So they're all going to have to be on the same page. I think this is a huge area of concern, sort of losing their quarterback of the offensive line for the first few weeks of the season.
So we mentioned up to 5 weeks for Moreno. They signed him in the offseason from the Denver Broncos. They should have him back for the start of training camp, should have him back for the start of the regular season. What is the plan for Knowshon Moreno in that Miami Dolphins offense?
Yeah, Jim, this injury wasn't a huge concern because Knowshon Moreno actually hadn't been doing all that well during OTAs and mandatory minicamp. So Lamar Miller was the starter. He came in this offseason as the incumbent. He did enough during the offseason to hold Knowshon Moreno off, despite the fact that Moreno kind of was high profile, came from the Denver Broncos, signed a decent-sized 1-year contract with the Dolphins. But man-to-man, Lamar Miller actually was the better player during off-season workouts. So, and that remains to be seen what happens in terms of if once Knowshon Moreno becomes 100% healthy and gets back into the competition with Lamar Miller. But as far as, starter reps and things like that, Miller was getting first-team work all during the offseason anyway. So it'll just sort of be business as usual until Knowshon Moreno gets 100% healthy. Then he can get back in the competition and see if he can make up enough ground before week 1.
James Walker covers the Miami Dolphins for ESPN.com. James, thanks for the insight.
All right, Jim, always fun. Talk to you soon.
All right, the Miami Dolphins suffer a pair of injuries, including to their center, Mike Pouncey. You can read more about this story right here on ESPN.com. But with the latest ESPN headlines, I'm Jim Basquel.